All right, so warm up number 31's on the screen. Number 1 reads, write the compound inequality shown by the graph. And it's a real number line. And one graph, a red graph, starts at -1, 2, 3, 4, -5. It's a solid point on -5, and it's highlighted going towards the right with an arrow at the end. Then I have another graph in green, which starts at +6. It's a solid point, and it goes to the left with an arrow, and it keeps going. Number 2 says solve, and then I have 2x minus 14 over x squared minus 15x equals 1. And number 3 reads, write the equation of the function, and then they give you a linear function on a coordinate plane. And as reference points, I'm going to give you, let's see, reference point -1, -4. This one right here. And the last reference point should be at 6, 10. -1, -4, and 6, 10. Then sketch your line and write me the equation for that function. And I'll give you guys some time. Nope. All right, let's see what we got. Number 1. So number 1's a compound inequality. So that means it's an and, because it's both graphs are intersecting. So one dividing end or dividing point is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's at -5. The other one is at +6. So my inequality is -5 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 6. But just to review and set notation, it would be solution set of x such that -5 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 6. In interval notation, since the 2 points are solids, it's a bracket, -5, comma, 6, and bracket. All right. Let me go over number 3, and then I'll come back to number 2. Number 3, they want us to write a function, so I write y equals mx plus b, and this is something that we started back before we left to break. And I said, well, since now we are in function notation, we no longer use y, so we do f of x equals to blank x. Now, why did I leave it blank? Well, because we need our slope, which is m, and we need also our last part, which is plus b, which is our y-intercept. So according to the graph, this graph is going through this point right here on the y-axis, which is -2, so that's my y-intercept. And to get my slope, I need 2 points. I'm going to use this first one that I already plotted, and I'm going to use this one right here. So how many steps does it take from here to here? It goes 1, 2 steps up, and 1 to the right. So my slope is 2 over 1, which is rise over run, or f of x equals 2x minus 2. 2x minus 2. All right. We good, yeah? Yes, Mr. Q. All right. Let's go with this last one, number 2. Let me make some space right here. So this is a rational function because it's got a fraction there. But question, is it a proportion? Let's find out. Is it a fraction equal to another fraction? Yes, we can write this over 1, which means we can cross multiply. So that means 2x minus 14 equals, cross multiply, x squared minus 15x. Now we have a quadratic equation. What is the next step? It needs to be equal to 0. So I'm going to bring all this on the left side over to the right. So I'm going to subtract 2x and add 14. Subtract 2x and add 14. I have 0 equals x squared minus 17x plus 14. What do I do then to solve? Factor. 14 goes on top, -17 on the bottom. Factors of 14 are 1 times 14, 2 times 7. Any of those pairs of numbers add up to -17? No, since we can't factor it, that means this one has no solution. No solution. If we were to be able to factor it, we would write our two factors, set them equal to 0, and solve. All right. All right, since it has no solution, for right now, I'm not going to identify the excluded values. We'll just leave it as is. All right, let's move on. All right, our agenda for today, we did warm-up number 31. We're focusing today on attributes of functions, And our home play for today's page is 25, or I'm sorry, page 25, all only. You're like, only one page, Michigan? Only one page? You're like, oh, snap. I know, right? So yeah, so we're getting into the funner part of the course. So make sure you stay focused, keep doing your practice, and not copy from people. All right. So once again, warm up number 31, attributes of functions, and your home play is page 25, all only. All right. Your asynchronous session code is for Nearpod is 7XYIT, 7XYIT. All right. And before we went to break, I had left you some home play. And the home play, the previous home play was pages 15 and 16. Go to Canvas, turn that in, please. And once again, right now for today, we're gonna have home play on page 25, all only, and get your Cornell notes ready. I'll give you some time to turn in your home play. Go. All right, here we go. Our objective for today, I can identify the attributes of functions. I can identify the attributes of functions. So today we're moving on, guys, and once again, the practice that we did prior to this lesson was more like an introduction, and we looked at domain and range, we looked at the different notations, and then from there we went to applications on how to apply some of those functions into word problems, and then from there looking at domain and range with given information. Today is going to be focused more on a given function and looking at the parts of a function and looking at other things that we need to know within the function. And today's going to be more like a foundation for our pre-calculus and calculus courses, because we're going to be looking at a graph and then writing a function. Some of the graphs are going to show you part of the function, and they want you to identify the attributes, what's happening to the graph within those parameters that they give you, okay? So first, let's get started with what are functions? Let's see if you remember. Function. In your Freire model, a function is what? In your own words, give me a definition, one example, one unexample, and a hashtag. Try not to look at your notes. See if you remember. Maybe you eating all that turkey, it helped you, yeah? I'll give you some time, go. All right, so some of the vocabulary, just to recap, now that you already finished your Freire model, we know what concept we're on in regards to functions. We talked about intervals, and today we're gonna be focusing more on intervals again, because now we're gonna be looking at portions of a function. So here, an interval is a part of a number line, part of a number line without any breaks, or part of a function. From now on, we're going to think about it in regards to part of a function without any breaks. And we said that there's two types of intervals. There's finite. That means that it has endpoints. And what are the brackets? What do we use for endpoints? Are the brackets here. This shows us that there's endpoints and they're included. The other one is infinite interval, which is unbounded at one or both ends. That means one of the ends has an infinite, that means an arrow going one direction, and the other one might be a point but not included. And what do we use for that? We use parentheses to show that we don't include the endpoints. Okay, all right, let's get started. Example Q. Next to your coordinate plane, copy this. It says graph the data given, write a function, then write the domain and range in set notation and interval notation. The table given for X values, they give us -5, 2, 6, -1, 5, 4, -3. And for our Y values, -6, 3, 4, -1, 2, 7, 2. Go ahead and copy that next to your coordinate plane, and then we'll do this one together. So you copied the table, and the instructions are graph the data given, write a function, then write the domain and range of the set and interval notation. So we're just going to change the order a little bit. I'm going to leave write a function till the end. So what I want to do first is graph the data. We're going to identify the domain and range, and we're going to write in set notation and interval notation. So let's do that first. However, look what I'm going to do. I'm going to rewrite this table in a different way, so like that you can see it. This is what we call vertical table. The other way is the horizontal, which is X. But instead of Y, I'm going to use what? F of X. And the reason I'm showing you this other way, because this is how most of the time the book's going to present it, in order to save maybe space on some of those occasions. So here, my first values are -5, -6, -5, -6. My next one is 2, 3, 2, 3. The next one is 6, 4, 6, 4. The next one is -1, -1, -1, -1. The next one is 5, 2, 5, 2. The next one is 4, 7, 4, 7. And the last one is -3, -2, -3, -2. Okay, so let's plot those. -5, -6, -5, -6, which is down here. There it is. 2, 3, 2, 3. 6, 4, 6, 4. -1, -1, -1, -1. 5, 2, 5, 2. And 4, 7, 4, 7, which is up here. And -3, -2, -3, -2. Okay. First, so we're done with graphing the data. Next, instead of going to write the function, I'm going to go write the domain and the range in set notation and interval notation. So I'm going to write domain and range. Okay, so this data, if we go from left to right, what would be my first point going from left to right? If you look at the graph, Victor, what is my first point going from left to right?
Oh, from left to right, you said?
Yes.
Would it be -9?
No, point. Which point of this data that we just plotted is our first?
Was it -5 and -6?
Yes, -5, -6. This will be our first point because we read it from left to right. What would be our last point, Addie, going from left to right?
4, 7.
4, 7. No, we're going from left to right. So our first point is -5, -6. Our last point going from left to right would be 6, 4. 6, 4. Now, I know some of you are like saying, well, I thought it was the one way on top, Mr. Q. Yeah, right now we're focusing on the domain, so that's why we're going from left to right, okay? So if we're going from left to right, guys, for those of you that don't see it, I can take my highlighter and highlight. I'm gonna start from farthest left, the very first point I encounter, which is that one, then highlight going to the right and stop on the last point, which is that one. So my domain is in set notation, solution set of X such that -5 less than or equal to x less than or equal to, what is the last point? 6. In interval notation, since these are solid points, we do bracket -5, comma 6. Okay. So now that we got the domain, let's focus on the range. And the range is from where to where? From the bottom to the top. So from the bottom to the top, let's get the range. So the range reads solution set of f of x such that, let's see, what's the lowest value for the y or for the f of x? Mia, lowest value.
-6.
-6 less than or equal to f of x less than or equal to, and the highest point, Mia?
6. 7.
7. There you go. All right. And interval notation, bracket -6, comma 7. Okay. So I'm pretty sure this is a piece of cake because we've been doing domain and range already for a while. Yes? Yes, Mr. Q? Okay, so we're done with the last part. So now let's focus on writing a function. Writing a function. Okay, so to write a function for that data, we need a line, pay attention to this part, we need a line that best represents that data. Now, for those of you that were with me in middle school, we did a couple of these examples. We did a group activity and such with this. And some of you got it and some of you were still a little confused, but here it goes again. In order for me to sketch a line that goes through these points, some of you are like, Mr. Q, but it's not gonna go through all the points. I understand, but it's gonna go through most points. So I'm gonna sketch a line that best represents that data. So check this out. And if you notice, the very first point going from left to right is this one. The last point is this one on top. So if this is the first one and this is the last one, what is the trend that it's going? It's going upward. Do you guys see that? It's going to the right and it's going upward. So that means I need to draw a line that looks and that follows that pattern. So let's see. There it is. Now, does that line best describe all that data? Well, not really. It's almost there, but not really, because it's not going through any of the points that were given. We need our line that we sketch to go at least through as many points as possible of the given data. So that means I need to move this line. So let's see. If I move it like this, it's still not really representing the whole data because it's not going through any points. So I'm going to get this bottom portion and I'm going to make it go through this bottom point down here. And then I'm going to move this one to see if I can make sure it goes through as many points as possible. And I think that's getting pretty close. And it looks like about right there. How many points is it going through right now on my data? 3 of them. You guys see that? Okay, so question, how many points are left above that the line did not cross? 2 of them. How many below the line? 2 of them. So what can we say? In order to draw a line that best follows the trend that they give us, it has to go through as many points, it has to be a straight line, and it has to divide the other points evenly. There needs to be a kind of like a balance. 2 on top, 2 on the bottom, or 3 on top, 3 on the bottom, or 1 on top, 1 on the bottom. And some of you are like, Mr. Q, what if it's not even? What if it has 1 on top, 2 on the bottom? Well, as even as possible, okay? So there's my line. So now that we have that line, do we know how to write a function given a line? Yes, Mr. Q. So here goes the process. In case you forgot, we did one on the warm-up. We write y equals mx plus b. Or f of x equals blank x. Why blank? Because we need our slope. What else do we need? We need our plus b, which is our y-intercept. So by looking at that line that I just drew, where does it cross the y-axis? Where do you guys estimate it's crossing the y-axis? Esmeralda, where do you think it's crossing the y-axis?
0.25.
Where?
By the 1 and 0.
Between 1 and 0 or 0 and 1? Yeah, so it's about right there. I'm going to say it's half. What do you guys think? Yeah? So I'm going to put here, underneath the plus b, I'm going to put plus 0.5. There it is. 0.5, or you can write it in fraction form, that's fine. All right, but now we need a slope. So in order to find a slope, what do we need, guys? Hayden, what do you need to find the slope?
Rise over run.
What is it?
Rise over run.
Rise over run, or you pick 2 points right
point.
from the line. Yeah. So here's 1 point. I'm going to pick this point right here, this one, and that one. So how many steps up? 1 and 1.5. So it's 1.5. How many to the right? 1. So this would be 1.5 over 1. So that means f of x equals 1.5x plus 0.5. Some of you are like, Mr. Cube, could we leave it as a decimal right now, the slope? Yeah, that's fine. All I want to see is that you are able to write your function given the data given, okay? So far, I think the easiest part is getting the domain and range of the data, and the one that you're probably gonna have to like deal with a little bit more in regards to looking at the trend is sketching your line and writing your function. So up to right there, show me your finger so I can PR with that much up to right there. Got some 5, 5, 4s, 5, 4s, 5, 4s. Okay. All right, I'm gonna give you one for you to do by yourself. Let's see how you do. On the next coordinate plane, I'm gonna give you another table. Example super Q, and it reads same information, graph the data given, write the function, then write the domain and range in set notation, interval notation. And the table given in XY form, the first values are X is -8, Y is 10, X is 2, Y is -3, X is 6, Y is 0, X is -1, Y is 2, X is 5, Y is 2, X is 4, Y is -4, and X is -7, Y is -2. Go ahead and copy that. I'm going to give you some time so you can find me the domain and range once you plot the points. From there, sketch your line and see if you can find me an equation for that function. And remember, you might not have the exact same equation as someone else. It's okay if it varies because maybe you sketched it a little bit off. That's fine. Okay? Go. All right, let's see how we did. So, just to make sure I use the same process and show you both ways. Here's a table in horizontal format, -8, 10. Whoa, sorry. Okay, I'll try that one again. -8, 10. 2, -3, 6, 0, -1, 2, 5, 2, 4, -4, and -7, -2. And let me plot those there. 2, -3. Whoa. 2, -3, 6, 0, -1, 2, 5, 2, 4, -4, and -7, -2. Okay. So if I was to highlight from the farthest left and went to the farthest right, that means my domain, let's see, domain, oh, all right, over here. Domain went from -8 to 6. So solution set of x such that -8 less than or equal to x less than or equal to 6. And interval notation is bracket -8, comma 6, bracket. Hands if you got that. Okay, good. Range, go from the bottom to the top. You can take your highlighter, go upward. The lowest point was what? -4. The highest point was what? 10. So my range is solution set of f of x such that -4 less than or equal to f of x less than or equal to 10. And interval notation, -4, 10, and brackets. Hands if you got that. Okay. Now, by this time, guys, you should be able to see the domain and range without having to use the highlighting. I'm using the highlighting still for those of you that are struggling to see it. But if you can go away from doing the highlight, that's fine. But once again, if you need to see the range, remember, start from the bottom with a different highlighter. The lowest point is that. Highlight upward and go to the highest point and see what would be the y value for that. The lowest y value is that, and so on and so forth. All right, and from there we need a function. So your graph, hopefully you did, let's see, where is that? We did this. All right. Did anybody do something similar to mine? Hands if you did something similar to mine. Yeah, because if you go from left to right, we start up here, then the next point is this one, then that one, that one. And if you notice, the trend is going downward from left to right. Okay, so now that we have our line, let's get our function. Y equals mx plus b. F of x equals x blank and blank. We need our y-intercept first. Where does it cross? It looks about, I'm just going to make it at 1. So +1. All right, so if I take the point right before that, the point right before that is here. So how many steps does it take from there to there? It goes down 1 step and 1 to the right. If it went down, that means it's -1 over 1. So my function, f of x, equals -1x plus 1. All right. All right, show me your fingers. I'll come you are with these. 1 being the lowest, 5 being the highest. Got some 5, 5, 5, 5s, 4, 5. Yeah, we got this. And notice now, since we've been practicing this, everything's coming together now. Everything that we've done in the lessons, plus everything that we've been doing on the warm-ups, now it's all come together in one problem, okay? Yes, Mr. Q. All right, good. Let's move on. All right. So now we're moving on to this next one. For this next one, you don't need a graph. Look up, please. Let me, hold on. All right. So for this one, we're going to label it example Star Wars Q. And instructions. what happens to the function from x equals 1 to x equals 2. Oh, x equals 2. Or in other words, what happens to the function, look up, parentheses, when domain 1, 2. Let me give you a table. X, f of x. -2, 4, -1, 1, 0, 0, 1, 1, 2, 4, 3, 9, and one more, 4, 16. So for example, Star Wars Q says, what happens to the function from x equals 1 to x equals 2, or from domain bracket 1, comma 2 bracket. All right. So what they're asking us basically is to identify the slope. The slope. They want us to identify the slope. So without graphing, check this out, guys. We need to first look at what they're talking about. They're talking about for us to look for what? Domain 1 to, where's the domain? X values. From where to where? From 1 to 2. So that means from here to here. And they want us to do what? Identify the slope. Okay. So what does that mean, Mr. Q? So how many points do we identify right now? We have 2 points, this one and this one. That means this is x sub 1, and that means this is y sub 1. That means the second point is x sub 2, and this is y sub 2. Do we know what to do with that information to find the slope? Yes, Mr. Q. All right, good. So we write what? M equals y sub 2 minus y sub 1 over x sub 2 minus x sub 1. M equals blank minus and minus. Let's substitute values. We have y sub 2 minus y sub 1. Y sub 2 minus y sub 1. So we got 4 minus 1. Then we have x sub 2 minus x sub 1. X sub 2 minus x sub 1. So we got 2 minus 1. So what is 4 minus 1? 3. 2 minus 1 is 1. So my slope is 3. So for right now, by looking at it, in regards to what's happening from that domain, is just identifying the slope without the graph. Do we know how to do that? Yes, Mr. Q. All right, so what I want you to do is I want you to find me the slope for the domain from -2, comma, to 3. So look what I did on this one. I first identified where x1, x2 were. So that means the first one was my x1, the second one was my x2. Follow that process. Find me the slope, please. Give you some time. Copy and go. All right, let's see how we did. So you should have, I'm going to use red so you guys can see it. So between -2 and 3. So -2 of x is here. 3 of x is here. So that means this is my x sub 1, y sub 1. And this is my x sub 2, y sub 2. So m equals blank, blank. So my y sub 2 is 9, y sub 1 is 4. So 9 minus 4. Okay. X sub 2 is 3, and x sub 1 is -2. So it's 3 and -2. Okay, so let's see. Here we have negative times a negative is a positive. So this is 5/5. So my slope is 1. Hands if you got that. Okay, good. All right, show me your fingers how come you are with finding what's happening from point to point using the table. Yeah.
Why did it become positive? Where at?
Well, because on the formula, don't we have in the formula the minus already there?
Oh, okay. So it became positive.
Yeah, because there's a negative here already, and this was -2. So what is -2 times the negative becomes a positive. That's why, guys, it's important to write your formula, and after that, you need to write m equals blank, the minus and the minus. That goes first, because if you don't do that, you're probably going to make a mistake with the slope. All right, so we're good with these. Let's move on. Let's move on to funner ones. Not that one. Copy this one. Example, Michael Jordan Q. Reference points, oh, sorry. For reference points, I'm gonna give you -5, -2. And it ends at 8, 6. And it's crossing at 3, at 0, 3. So just kind of like make it look something to that effect. All right, so for this one, I was going to ask you to find me the domain range using the 3 different notations, but we already know how to do that. We've been doing that already for the time before we left to break and such, right? Yes, Mr. Q. So if we were to look at the domain, the farthest point to the left, from left to right is this one. All the way to the right is this one. So the domain has to be between what? -5 and 8. You guys see that? Yes? How about the range? Going from the bottom to the top. From the bottom, it would go from -2, and the top would be 6. Okay, so we got that. But that's not what I want us to focus on right now. Okay, you can do that on your own, that's fine. What I do want us to do is this next question. Look up. Write this down. What happens to the function for domain 0 to 3? So in pre-cal and calculus, guys, they're going to be asking you to find, volumes under areas of curves and such like that. But this is the first step, and for you training your noodle, your brain, to identify certain portions of a function. So look at it. Don't do anything else. Write your utensils down. Look up to the screen. Can you picture the domain from 0 to 3? Yes. So if I was to highlight that, look up, please. I'm going to highlight that from 0 to 3. There it is. And I'm going to sketch in blue what's happening from here to here. So I'm going to put a point here. It's going to about right there. So if your little cousin walked in from elementary and they saw that question and they asked, what's happening to that graph from there to there? What would you say in simple words? What would you say, Jaziel? What's happening to the function from there to there?
It's going down. Like, I don't really.
Going down.
Negative.
That is correct. Going down. Write that down. It's that simple. All they're going to be asking you is for you to tell what's happening to the graph up to right there. However, look at this following question. Find the rate of change for that. What's another word for rate of change, Michael?
Like, is it that switch kind of thing, switch flip?
Yeah, one word. Alberto, what's the rate of change?
One word, it's a negative.
Slope. You need to find the slope between there to there. So how do we find the slope? Well, here's one point. Here's my other point. And the other point is at 3 1/2. So I would count 1, 2 1/2, 2 1/2 steps down, and 1, 2, 3 to the right. So my slope is negative 2.5 over 3. And for right now, I can leave it as an improper. That's fine. Okay, next. On this same one, same question, what's happening to the function, but I want you to look at it now for the domain from 5 to 8, comma, find slope and for this one, I want you to write the range for that section. All right, Ivan, what's happening to that graph for that domain? Ivan. No? Ivan not there? Probably went to a Jack in a Box run. Miles, what's happening to that graph? Your mic's like staticky. Danny, what's happening to the graph from 5 to 8? Okay. Anthony, help him out. What's happening to the graph from 5 to 8 for the domain 5 to 8?
It's going up.
It's going up or upward, yes. Let's see, from 5 to 8. Let's see, from here to here. In that section, it's going up. So to find the slope, I need a point here to get to here. So how many steps? Let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps up, and then 1, 2, 3 to the right. So my slope for that section is 5/3. Hands if you got that. Okay. What was the range? The range for that section. Who's got the range? Let's see. Help them out. Roman, what's our range from there to there? Okay. Let's see. Help them out, Hayden. What's the lowest value for y at this point, and what is the highest value for y?
1 and 6.
1 and 6. That is correct. So then my range is from 1 to 6, and it includes those points, so it's bracket and bracket. And that's pretty much the home play, guys. They're just going to give you a function. They're going to ask you to look at the curve or the graph, whatever it is. They're going to ask you to look at certain intervals and to write domain and range and find slopes in between and so on and so forth, okay? So many fingers talk up here with these. 4 or 5, 4 or 5. Yeah, we just need practice. And once again, tutoring right after lunch. If I have any seniors, quick announcement. Miss Hawk asked me to remind you guys that deadline for the UC applications, they extended the deadline to Friday. So if you were freaking out that it was today, they extended the application submission till Friday. So you still have time. So get those in. All right, guys. Well, that's our lesson for today. Once again, your home play for tonight is on page 25. Make sure you do the practice. Tutoring right after lunch. Have a good one, guys. Good seeing you all. Peace.
See you, Mr.
Thank
Q.
you, Mr. Q. Later.
Later, guys.
Hey, Mr. Q.
Later, Mr. Q.
Bye.
Hey, Mr. Q.